for March, whatever today is, 22nd at 4 p.m. will now begin. I know for the park board meetings, they make a note about the fact that it's because of the governor's directive about virtual meetings. That's why we're doing it virtually. So I'll just make reference to that. I don't know if it requires a motion or not, but we'll at least make reference to the fact that that's why we're meeting virtually at this point. Thank you all for showing up. And I'll start by number one on the agenda is approval of the minutes. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes?
Yes, I have.
I have also. This is Helen.
Does anyone have any changes? And if not, I'll ask for a motion to approve the minutes as is.
I move that the minutes be approved as is with necessary corrections. Calvin Barlow.
Okay. Mr. Barlow, do I have a second?
I move that the amendments, that the minutes be approved as submitted.
Helen Moore. Okay. Number two on the list was confirm email addresses and phone numbers for all members. Ashford, I don't have a cell phone for you. I don't know if you want yours to be publicized on this list or not. If you do, would you please email me your cell phone number? And if not, just say you'd prefer it not be on there, which is fine as well. I know Pearl was collecting the ethical rules forms and signatures, and I believe, Pearl, can you confirm that you have all of those at this time?
I can confirm that, yes.
Okay, so.
Mr. Chair,
yes.
My phone listing is my office listing, not my cell phone number.
Either one. I'm sorry, I said cell phone, but whatever phone number you would like to have. It does not have to be your cell phone. If it's your office phone, that's fine. The next item on the agenda, I sent those out this morning, or actually this afternoon. One reference, I think, and I felt like when we did the election of the officers, we did elect co-chairpersons, myself and Helen Moore, but Pearl was not sure that that's exactly how it went down. So does everyone agree that we elected co-chairpersons for this group?
Yeah, I thought we elected you and Ms. Moore as co-chair, and we elected Dr. Sams as secretary, because I nominated her, I think. I nominated Dr. Sams.
Aren't you sorry? My question was that there was language used in our minutes for vice chair, and the words in the bylaw actually calls it co-chair. So I just think we need to call her a co-chair, but we elected for some reason the vice chair. So.
You know who was the maker of the motion?
I have to go back. I'm sorry. That was let me pick it up. But it was. I just wanted to make sure we're using the same language, and the bylaws say co-chair. So I just wanted to make sure.
Could I just make a motion to amend the minutes?
Yes, that'd be easy.
Of the date of that meeting. I don't have it before me.
That's
either.
perfect. That'd be awesome.
In the minutes to reflect that John Holmes and Helen Moore was as co-chair.
That fixes it. That's all I needed. I was afraid somebody was going to come back.
And it's a second from somebody.
Do we have a second?
I second that amendment. This is Helen Moore.
Okay, anyone, let's see, how do we do this? Okay. Everyone in favor, please say aye.
Hello, aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, nay. It passes unanimously then. Okay. The next item on the list was to review the intent of the legislation. And if you all will take out the document, anyone that's cameras or their thing is working, it starts with the Rose Park Advisory Group, government appointed advisory groups, kind of a definition, explains what it's for. And then if you go down to a chart that I believe has 10 items on it that are taken from the actual legislation. And I'm going to go down them one at a time and we can discuss them. And these will be, I feel like this will be our roadmap for moving forward to address the issues the purpose of why we're here. So, number one is establish processes needed for determining if the annual required statistics are being collected on a regular basis. Then under there, it says review the most recent statistical report with the committee and discuss if the data collected is understood and if there are other data needs of the community. Update at the end of the second quarter for potential issues and fourth quarter meeting to discuss report with Edge Hill community. A couple of things here, and then I'm going to turn it over for people to give their input. I forwarded everyone a copy of the last year's annual report that Parks puts together with input from Belmont. That is basically the report that's required in the original agreement between Belmont and Metro Parks for the sports fields themselves. And it has athletic field usage numbers, identifies who the community users are, lists what the expenses for maintenance and improvements are, what Belmont is spending on site, lists what the lease agreements are, how much they're paying on an annual basis. And I hate the term lease agreements or lease payments because I think it's a donation rather than a lease payment, but that's what it's on here. And then also how the money is used, utility payments, parking and traffic information, security and crime statistics, and then finally a summary of what's going on with the scholarships. And this report is prepared each year, like I said, by Metro Parks in conjunction with information obtained from Belmont. And we currently are posting them on the Metro Parks website on the Rose Park page for every year since it's begun. So anyone who wants to see how the breakdown has been as far as usage, what has been, what's been paid by Belmont for the contribution to the community center and the PTOs, how that money has been spent, traffic issues, anything that they want is in this report. And it goes now, and I will say, the first several years, this report was not very detailed. It has evolved and gotten much better over the last 3 or 4 years, and will continue to stay at what we have right now. So this report is what we prepare on an annual basis. It has to be presented to the park board by the August meeting. So we normally start preparing this in June or July. We get our information from Belmont in May. As far as, I guess, when I read what number one says, wanting to keep up with this on a regular basis, it would be additional responsibility on already limited staff in parks to gather this information and put together a report more than once a year. I feel like the report provides the information unless somebody sees something, some reason to do it more than once a year, other than just reporting that we are continuing to gather the information. I'm not sure what else needs to be done. So with that, I'm going to be quiet and let each of you give whatever input you want in regards to this particular section. Would anyone like to give some input? And if so, you need to unmute yourself, because so far I'm the only one not muted.
John, this is Berkeley. I've raised my little WebEx hand. May I speak?
Okay, yes.
Thank you for recognizing me. I think that it might be helpful as people familiarize themselves with the report and have questions. If there is a desire to see information on any kind of quarterly basis, to acknowledge that there are some spreadsheets that wouldn't be in any kind of finished form or any kind of polish, but if people said, can we check on such and such, you know, can what's in that spreadsheet be pulled off and provided in raw form? That might be considered as a possibility.
I believe that would be possible. Yes, ma'am.
Without adding unduly to the burden of the parks folks, because we want them doing parks. But I think if it's just a matter of printing off something that's already there and then letting y'all work your way through, you know, an unpolished spreadsheet, that might provide some use.
John, I've got my hand up just to add to what Berkeley's saying. If that's
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. The question, I think, from the neighborhood is one less of the product and more of the process. And that is, if we wait to the end of the year and through the statistical report, which I know you're doing better every year and is thorough, how would we know we have a problem until after the whole year is passed?
Well, I guess give me an example of where you see a problem.
Well, I'm just saying, for example, we realize that we don't have that many people playing ball actually on the fields, but we don't know that statistic until the end of the year. How would we catch it in time to fix it? And that's probably not the best example, but the best kinds of statistical reports are those that allow it to be used for performance improvement. How do we use this report for something other than just compliance?
Well, you gave a good example, and I guess my response there would be, if we're providing, the fields are being provided to anyone who is asking for them. If there is a local group that is not getting usage, then that's where the advisory group, I'm trying to think how to word this. There's nobody asking for the fields except outside groups. There are not that many groups from Edge Hill that request use of the fields, and every time, to the best of my knowledge, every time a request has been made, it has been honored, and we continue to do that. So I don't know. I guess I'm not sure how reviewing that in the middle of the year would affect that change.
And that may not be the world's best example, but what I'm trying to do is to think through, you know, so often in this relationship with Edge Hill, we've all been in a reactionary mode instead of a proactive mode. And yet to be proactive, we need data. And I love your report. The problem is it's what we did a year ago. So how would we actually know in midterm without looking at, and I would really have, I mean, this is where we need our neighborhood reps to really step in and say, okay, King, this is kind of your responsibility for Edge Hill, is what does the neighborhood really need to watch and ask for mid-year instead of at the end of the year?
And I guess that would be my question. What information I guess I can't answer your question until you ask it. I mean, that's the reality. I can't answer a question that hasn't been asked yet at this point.
Well,
I don't,
question is how do we use it for performance versus just compliance? That's my real question. But you're asking for a specific example, and that would have to come from the neighborhood. So,
but other than preparing this report quarterly,
I was trying to think about when things happen. Oh, y'all, I'm sorry.
what? Did you get a present?
They Bell, my girls just won the first round of their game, which they didn't expect. I know we're taping. Gonzaga was seed number 3. That there are some things that happen with regularity. For example, once a year, Belmont would send the lease payments. And that usually happens in the fall, around September-ish. And let's see, I was trying to think of anything. The scholarships happen once a year. So, I could report on when we have sent checks in. I could report on when the scholarships were given and to whom, et cetera. I think that, now this is just past and we're going through COVID and all of that. So you don't expect as much usage. But I think in the past, when parks, and I think we all have to be proactive about doing things in the park with the kids. And, that has followed funding. So I think if we're proactive in terms of actually doing the, having activities for the kids. And the lease is like a report. It's supposed to be a monitoring and compliance document. It's not a performance document per se. So I think there's some things we could say because they happen with regularity is what I'm saying, Pearl. But once a year we do this, once a year we do this. And I think as we become more familiar and parks can tell us what regularly goes on, it may help us. I think we're on a learning curve.
And that's what I'm saying is I think we've done I think the park's done a good job, a really good job with this report, but it's been for compliance. And now we really are in need, if we're going to really try to meet some of the concerns of the neighborhood. I can't go with this ideology like the neighborhood has often asked us to do. I can't go with just feelings. What really is going on so that we know if we're okay or not? And how do we get that data? And we've got it. We just get it at the end of the year, so it can't be used for performance improvement. We can only really use it by looking back and going, okay, this is what we did last year. And we may have to just do it that way, but instead of it being a final report, we use it as, okay, how do we improve for the next year?
Agreed.
Pearl, I have 2 questions for you. First of all, number 1, would you clarify what you are addressing in regards to performance improvement? And then secondly, what type of periodicity are you suggesting, or do you think we need to implement in regards to reporting of data? And third, and let me go to a number 3. Has there been any requests for said information?
Well, what historically has happened, and it's happened for a really long time, is the neighborhood doesn't feel like it gets good information about what really is going on, not just in how you access stuff, and I actually do think there's been a lot more than the neighborhood knows, but without data, I can't fight it ideologically. I can't address the neighborhood's concerns if we don't have data of some sort. And so I'm thinking more of like, okay, let's just say that the neighborhood wants to start an elderly, some kind of elderly exercise program and let's just say they want to play senior softball. I'm just using it as an example. Well, the report would show that is not currently going on, or it could be going on, but where do we know that until the end of the year?
I love the fact that it is.
Have you had?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Have you had questions specifically to that regard?
Oh gosh, Berkeley, you can speak to this. We've been listening to stuff for over a year, almost 2 years now.
Calvin Bryant has his hand up.
Yeah.
Calvin, did you have a question?
Yeah, I just want to make a comment. I'm in the neighborhood like daily, like every other day. I'm leasing that neighborhood, and I can, if it's easier for the board in the neighborhood, I could hold like a meeting, at least maybe every month or so, and see is everybody feeling like they having the opportunity to have use of the parks or whatever. Like just basically communication. I don't know if I overstep my boundaries as being part of this group, but with me being out there daily, I can answer the questions that need to be answered, and I can bring it back to the board if they have any questions. So at the end of the year, it won't be so much stuff piled up when everybody's saying they need use of the field and not getting use of certain things.
Mm-hmm.
Calvin, I would actually say that what you're hitting on right there is further down in the list. That's exactly what we need all of the neighborhood representatives to do, is to reach out. One of the things I'm hoping to do tonight is to begin to define who the user groups are. I mean, who do you represent in your neighborhood? Who are those neighborhood associations or neighborhood groups that are out there? Try and identify them. And that way, once we've got them identified and a point of contact with each of them, we can actually reach out each month and say, hey, is there anything that's bothering you guys right now? Is there something that you want to see improved? Do you want but we have to identify who to ask. It kind of goes back to what Pearl was just saying. Everybody keeps saying that there's a concern that the neighborhood is not getting use of the facility, but we're honoring every request. So it's not that you're not getting use of, you're not asking for it. So, if I'm not aware of any example of where an Edge Hill association or group has not gotten the access to those fields that they've wanted. But I will also say that we haven't had very many requests. So,
right.
I mean, that's frustrating for me to constantly hear how they're not being answered, but in reality, they're not being asked. So at this point, Calvin, if you would unless you have a question, put your hand down. Berkeley, unless you have another question, I'm going to ask you to put your hand down. And Ashford, I see your hand up. And then if Berkeley's is still up after that, I will go back to Berkeley. So Ashford.
Hear me now?
Yeah, but you're really quiet. You might need, I don't know if something's going on with your speaker or what, but you might need to speak up a little bit.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you, but it sounds like you're down in a hole. Is that what everybody else is hearing? Okay, so I don't know if there's something going on with your phone or laptop or whatever, but if you just talk loud, I think we'll be able to hear you.
Man, I'm almost yelling from across the room almost. I mean, they probably can hear me down the hallway.
Oh, no. Sorry about that.
Try to speak loud, and I might have missed Pearl saying this, but have we identified what particular data points they are some of the folks that she's talking to are looking for? What type of data are they saying that they're not receiving, that this committee needs to receive? And to your point, is it not our job on the committee, if people are saying they don't feel like they're getting something, to try to provide as best we can? I don't mean to push back against people saying that we're not providing what they needed, but if we in these meetings are saying that we are, like, what is our role to kind of say, well, look, what do you need? Here's what we're talking about. Here is the actual facts of what's taking place. What is our role in that? I hope you were able to hear me.
We did. It got better as you went along there. So something's
Okay.
getting better. Berkeley, you had your hand up.
Yes, I do. Thanks for recognizing me again. I'll say a couple of things. I think you're exactly right about this needing to be a two-way street, that this group has the opportunity to be the kind of communication that hasn't flowed well in the past, that now we've got this group of 8 people that can go out to the neighborhoods and do 2 things. One, to help them find what information is out there, or to find out what it takes to sign up. And I would challenge everybody on this committee to go to the Parks website and see if you can find the report. And I've said this to John a couple of times. It needs to be totally idiot-proof, because it took this idiot here a long time to punch the right buttons until I got to the report. So I know it's logical that if everybody checks and y'all can all find it, then we're good to go. But if there are other ways that we can suggest to put links in where people might look for those reports, that might be helpful, John. So if you'd be willing to work with your IT folks to provide whatever other links it takes to get there. Because if you start from the place that seems logical to you, you may not be able to find it. So that's one challenge to the group, is just everybody go to Metro Parks, find Rose Parks, find the report, and if everybody can find it, we're good. And if you can't, call John and tell him how you thought you ought to be able to get there and see if we can do it.
Except let me add I hate to add a little caveat there, but it actually applies to something later on in our meeting. They're in the process of changing our website. So hopefully what we're going to get is better than what we currently have.
Okay.
What we have right now, I agree, is not necessarily user-friendly. So you are welcome to do that, but the answer in all likelihood is they're not going to change anything anyway, because they're getting ready to dump this one and change it. So
gotcha. Well, so then just for us all to learn how to get there would be step number 1. And then secondly, I think one of the pieces of data that doesn't show up in the report is how can neighbors spontaneously use the field? And I think that's an item to put down later, is something that I heard repeatedly is, we want to know that we could just, under certain circumstances, just go up there and pick a ball on a field. And John, again, that's a perception thing. So how can this group help? If the field is empty, it's okay for me to go out there and use it. We just, this group needs to help communicate under what circumstances it is okay. And when you can tell that it's reserved and an official group is going to be on it, and just how we share those 2 uses. And then as well as this group letting the neighborhood know, here's how you go to sign up to use it if you want to have it reserved. And you guys do get priority if you know how to get to that space. So just educating people more. So, I mean, I think this group has a really important role in just making that whole process more accessible to more people. And that will, I think that could go a long way towards solving some of the perception issues that we've had in the past.
Okay. I think this particular subject is one that's going to take more discussion over more time. So rather than spend any more time here, Pearl, your hand's up.
I just wanted to thank Ashford, because that's exactly what I was trying to say. And he said it so much better than I did. It's not so much what we're offering as it is what do they think they need, and like Berkeley said, showing them where it may already exist, or some of the data that may be important to the neighborhood may not be in this report. But our purpose, and I think probably our primary purpose, is to create a good communication pathway between us. And if we keep hearing the feedback, then we need to listen. That's I think what we owe our city.
If I could kind of summarize real quickly a couple of things, and Pearl, again, I love that you're on this committee, because you always say things that help trigger other things. One of the biggest things that helps with this, that's going to help, is when we actually have a schedule that's viewable by the public. We're still a ways away from that, but that is a goal in the not too distant future. So that is something. As a matter of fact, I got an email from Jason Rogers today where I'm going to try and get Belmont ITS and Metro ITS together and see if we can talk about some additional possibilities. So that, to me, addresses a lot of this. The report that I was reading from, if any of you want to make a note, if you go to nashville.gov, you go to Parks and Recreation, you go to athletics. This is where it gets confusing. You go to parks, you're not going to find it. But if you go to the drop down that says athletics, as soon as you click on that, there will be a page for Rose Park because of the sports fields. And when you open that, you will see all of the there'll be a little page on Rose Park, but then it will list, there'll be an attachment that you can click and view each of the reports since the creation of this park. So, and I really think that you as group members need to go and read these and make sure that you understand what's in them right now. Because this is what the agreement requires to be in the report. But if there's something else that this group says, hey, well, we need this additional information, I know that both Parks and Belmont will be happy to provide whatever additional information is requested. We just need to know what it is. Right now, I think it's a very extensive report that gives a lot of information, but if there's more, we can. At this point, I'm going to try and move on to the next item. Establish the processes needed for determining if all payments are being used to best serve Edge Hill community and NPS students. That is in regards to the newest legislation and the agreement between MNPS and Belmont. There's also the question that has risen as far as, are the payments that are currently being made, how are they being accounted for? And at this point, I would ask Stefan to maybe come on real quick. He and I have spoke about possibly enhancing the report for next year to not only show what's being spent, but how much is being spent, and possibly even identifying what groups it's is it kids, is it seniors, is it whatever it is. So Steve, do you want to give any comments in regards to how the current payments are being used by the Easley Center?
Yes, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, the payments now, and then the programs that have been used on are programs that are inside the facility for the fall, spring, and summer, and also for youth through senior programming. And those are mostly what those payments are being used for on those type of programs. And what we can do for the report is just to be more distinctive and let you know exactly for what those payments are being used. So right now, it may be more generalized in saying that it's used for after-school programming. But what we can do is say, okay, it's used for a motivational speaker for the youth of Easley Community Center and the youth in the community. We can be more distinctive with those reports, and I think that's what we can do moving forward, so everybody understand what those funds are being used for.
And just to add to that, in an accounting that actually shows that they've spent X number of dollars. I know the report does, at least this one doesn't define how much was spent in this particular year. And I think that would help, is if we can show that X number of dollars out of the, look here right quick, out of the, how much? 55,000 or 52,000 that was donated last year, how much of that was actually spent and what exactly it was spent on. So those, I think, and if, correct me if I'm wrong, that would be something that would be what this group and what the neighborhood group would like to see. Is that correct? Pearl, you have your hand up.
No, I'm sorry, I forgot to.
Oh, okay. Does anyone, and I can't even figure out how to put the hand up. So if anybody wants to simply add something, if you know how to put your hand up, I'll look for that and try and call on you. If not, you're welcome to just start talking. Helen, I see you're unmuted.
Yes. I would like to suggest that we be as definitive as possible in regards to categorization of how the money is being spent. I noticed that you said for the children's program that there was an after-school speaker, rather than just saying this money was spent for the children, whatever language you would want, broad language you would want to put in there. You could have that as a heading, and then break, and maybe 1, 2, or 3 points to further define actually what types of activities came under that, in that category. Is that clear to everyone?
So back subject based.
I'm sorry, say again, Steve.
Pearl and Joyce, do y'all understand what I'm saying?
Talk about accounting categories. I get it.
You would have a broad category, but then you would further define it, be so that the neighborhood groups could look at that. Okay, we say we spend $3,000 on after-school program activities. Well, what type of activities? And that should be something that would not be extremely time-consuming to just put in 1, 2, 3. Itemize, 2 or 3 things.
For
And if
example,
anyone has further questions about 1, 2, and 3, then they could ask that. But just to give a broad statement, a dollar amount, that leads to the imagination of question of, well, what exactly were these activities? And I would advise that that would be one way to eliminate further time spent on this requirement.
And
But I have a. Go ahead.
So all she said, you need to itemize your expenses. That's all she said. The expenses need to be itemized. That's all she said. Expenses need to be itemized. Expenses itemized, and you have more transparency. That's all she said.
Line item, exactly.
And we have to, Steve and his staff have to submit receipts. This is all accounted for in our accounting, our administrative division audits this on a regular basis. So they have, I believe, and can create a spreadsheet that shows exactly what every penny was spent on. Now, sometimes it's going to be, it might require some additional explanation as to what it is, but I'm sure that they could do that to add to it. But yeah, they should be able to break it down to the penny, because we have to do that for audit purposes.
I think, Helen, I think you're absolutely right. And I love the fact that we can let them know. Probably to me, the most important bullet under number 2, though, is this tells us how Metro Parks is spending it, but it's really what's the process for the community to give input about what kind of programs will benefit them.
And I think that's actually, Pearl, I think that's actually number 9 further on.
Okay, yeah, okay, that's not a thing.
Some of these cross, but I agree with you, but I think some of these things cross over.
They do. And that's good planning, so that's good.
Yeah, yes. Does anyone else have any input at this point on this subject?
This is Berkeley. I'll just quickly say, again, there are spreadsheets that have been provided that kind of show snapshots of parts of the year that it might be helpful for this group to see, that are specifically, here's what the Easley Center spent, on kids programming with the money that was provided by Belmont. So it might be helpful for this group to see what kind of detail is already on there.
Steve, would it be possible for our next meeting for you to pull something from the last year that we could show to the group of, I mean, it might be something that you get from either Keedy or Shanita. Is that, am I oversimplifying it, or is that something doable?
Yes, we can do that.
I don't want to make work for anyone, extra work, or make this cumbersome in everyone's daily schedule. But I would recommend that we each look at these spreadsheets, become familiar with them, so that if the case should arise that someone should ask me something, I wouldn't have to start running around in circles or, going crazy, not knowing where to at least start. So I think if we familiarize ourselves with these reports, then we would be of an asset to the committee.
Just to bring us back around, and I apologize, and I actually am screwing up here. I was supposed to leave this all up to Berkeley, and Berkeley, I apologize, because you were supposed to be leading this whole discussion. But I will say number 2, because of the way it's written, is actually in regards to the new agreement between MNPS and Belmont. So this is the new report, the new legislation, and what is required of that legislation. And so this would be Ashford's report in regards to the agreement with the batting facility. And at this point, you know what? I am going to step back. Berkeley, would you mind leading this on from here, unless you want me to continue to lead it?
I think you're doing a fine job. My tendency is to bulldoze through, and since we only have 10 minutes left, maybe.
Yeah, I know. I'm not sure how we're going to get done in an hour today, because part of it was we started a little bit late. So I guess what I would ask is if we're okay, if we can go till 10 after 5 is what we're shooting for a target. Then I am going to kind of shoot through these a little quicker from here on out, just to make sure that people are thinking about these. Will be our talking points moving forward. And then I'll also talk about the concession stand here in a little bit, and I'll give you more of an update. Well, I'm not going to be able to give you an update yet on the ITS, but hopefully by the next meeting I can give you more as far as the website. Number 3 is determine baseline for measuring if and how benefits for all parties are being realized. Per lease agreements, benefits should include lease payments, percentage of ticket revenue, community scholarships, maintenance, security, and extended learning programs. These are the things that are currently provided in the annual report that Parks does and that MNPS will be doing moving forward. So that's something we can look at and to help define what the benefits are for each party and a baseline for the benefits. So we can look at that as we move forward, because that's really for a brand new report that will be due out this next year once the batting facility is actually completed. Number 4 was prioritize and implement technology enabling online scheduling for all Rose Park facilities. That's on me. That's the one where, like I said, right now, Metro government is redoing their website. Jason Rogers has already spoken to the ITS people at Belmont. They think they may have a simpler solution, so I am going to facilitate another discussion between them and our ITS sometime in the next couple of weeks to see if it's as simple as they say it is. Sometimes somebody looking from the outside thinks it's simpler than it actually is. But we will look into that, and we will continue to work towards, it's very clear to me right now, that is one of the highest priorities, is getting that schedule viewable to everyone. So that I'm going to work very hard to get that done. But just so y'all know, it's not something that's going to get done quickly. Determine a coordination process for neighborhoods' use of the second floor in the agreement directly with MNPS. This is an Ashford topic that could lead to a lot of discussion that I don't think we have time for today, that I would like to table for another meeting. But if anyone has any suggestions or comments, you might want to go ahead and start sharing those with the group and sending those to Ashford so that he can get some. I mean, I'm sure he's already gotten a lot of input, but any more input would be great. Create a distribution list for Metro Park's annual report on Rose Park. Identify neighborhood groups and assign to specific advisory groups. This was something I mentioned earlier on. We have to rely on each of you as neighborhood representatives to reach out in your neighborhoods and begin to put together a list of who the groups are and who the contacts are. Because one of the best things we could do out of this advisory group is create a network of information. Right now, there's so much misinformation or lack of information that's involved in this. It's very frustrating for me because I look at it from my side and I'm thinking, man, this is an awesomely cool park and a great relationship with Belmont. But I'm only looking at it from one side. We need to see and we need to hear what the neighborhood groups are seeing and feeling. So I am going to ask each of you or assign each of you to please start to put together a list of who the group is and who the contact is and what their contact information is. I would ask you to send that information to myself, Helen, and Pearl. And I would ask Pearl as the secretary, this is a mean thing to do. I would ask Pearl as the secretary to start to compile a list of those groups. Is everybody comfortable with that?
I am, John.
Is anybody not comfortable with that? Okay, then I'm going to assume everybody is comfortable with that.
John, it's a deadline.
This is an ongoing endeavor, but I would like to see everybody come up with at least one or two by the next meeting. Provide at least one or two from your particular neighborhood, your district, so that we're starting to put. I mean, we all know ONE, and there's churches that are groups. There's so many different, and I've heard them all, and I still get very confused by them all. Organized, what's the other one that Abby and Mr. Tran are part of? Edgehill, Friends of Edgehill?
No, it's Edgehill Coalition. We've got Edgehill Neighborhood Partnership that you're meeting with on Thursday. Yes, we got a bunch of them, but
yes.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's see if we can get that going. So that would be my request for each of you to moving forward. Establish process for offering long-term planning suggestions for Easley Center. This is one with, and I am going to ask for one more indulgence here. Steve, could you summarize for us how you all solicit and incorporate input from the neighborhood right now for programming at your community centers, whether it's Easley or any of them? I know you do it around the whole county. So could you kind of speak on that?
Yes. And, well, as you know, the community centers thrive off community involvement, suggestions on programs and things of that nature. So the process is simple as meeting with that center manager, scheduling a meeting with that person. For Easley, it'll be Ms. Marlo Lavender, and discussing programming ideas, and then working in tandem with that center manager and the community to make those programs a reality. Process is very simple, and that's the way we do with all 27 community centers throughout the city. So this is the way we thrive, and this is the way we make an impact on our communities.
And so I guess I would ask for input from you all, and this will be another topic of discussion as a future meeting. And I guess I would put this, the ones that are related to the batting facility, because it's not even completed yet. we can table those to some degree. This would be one I would see as potentially an important one for our next meeting, to get input from you all who hopefully have gotten input from others as to, what do you see as the positive parts of that right now? Where do you see a deficiency at that point? It could be simply a misperception. The reality is the recreation experts are the people that are working there. Everybody that comes in there has their own agenda. A lot of people have their own agenda. So sometimes they can't meet the needs and desires of a specific individual, but they're trying to meet the majority of the needs for everybody. So, but unless we can identify where people feel like they're being left short, we can't help change the people's opinions. So if you could provide some input to Steve on what you hear in that regards, that would be helpful and would be something for our next meeting and topic of conversation. Number 10 is establish the processes for use of the concession facility and other park facilities consistent with the lease agreement. We have a meeting on Thursday with, and I hate being old because I forget names. Pearl, what's her name?
Edge Hill Neighborhood Partnership, Sarah Hoover.
Sarah Hoover. She, and I did speak with her on the phone, and we're going to meet and look at the concession stand. So I hope to have a update for you all at the next meeting as to what is going on in that regards. And then I'm just going to very quickly, I received a number of emails today from concerned citizens around the neighborhood. Some of them had to do specifically with security guards on property. Some of it had to do with signage. Some of it had to do with the concession stand was one. A number of different items. What I'm doing currently is I've already sent an email asking for clarification in regards to the security. What should be going on? I mean, I know as long as I've been involved, Belmont has always had armed security staff as part of their on-campus police force that spend time at the park when the university athletic teams are there. I believe they are similar to Vanderbilt police in that they're sworn officers and have arresting policy, but I don't know. And I see Berkeley shaking her head. No, they don't.
The answer to that is Belmont has no policing authority off the campus.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Belmont does not have policing authority off the campus.
Off the campus. Okay. So their status on Rose Park is what? Do you know? And I should have asked you right from the beginning. Doug, you're right there. Sorry about that, Joyce. Can you speak to that just real quickly? And I don't mean to catch you off guard. I'm not hearing you. You're muted. Joyce, you're muted. You're still muted. Now you're not. Oh, nope, now you're muted again.
My mute keeps bouncing back and forth. Why? I don't know. All right.
There you go.
I'm using a cursor instead of the one on the computer. In answer to your question, we're required to have, the security out there, but I think that's probably a matter that, as you said, you have inquired. And so I think that, the park police patrol the property as well. So I think that's something that we refer to them.
Okay.
That's the Parks Police and Belmont Police.
Well, that is apparently an issue.
I do know that, was it last month? It probably had to be last month when they had the shooting over. It was 7 o'clock or so in the morning that they had the shooting in the Airbnb over there. near the park, that a group of girls was out there. You know, when they murdered that person?
I didn't know.
Uh-huh. Many of you probably saw that on the news. And they murdered, I think it was somebody from Memphis came up and leased an Airbnb, and there was a shooting there.
It was a drug deal that went down. It was on the north side of the park where the Airbnbs are, where they first are set up. And it was a drug deal that went south. And a young man from Memphis was killed. And it was like 7 o'clock in the morning.
And the girls were on the field at the time.
Yes.
And so the security guard was able to, you know, he was armed, but he was able to escort the girls to in a safety hiding place that they have, I think, and guard them.
Okay.
So I think that it needs to be discussed with Metro Park Police.
Well, and that's just so that you all know, I have gotten that concern sent to me, and I am currently investigating because I don't have the answers on that. So I'm finding out the answers on that. And so I've gotten at least 2, and it might have been 3 emails today with concerns. So I will continue. And as I get responses to that, I'll add that I'll either include you all in that, or I will add that in our next meeting to give you an update. Okay. The last thing, hold annual community meeting in October to facilitate communication with community. Hopefully, maybe, potentially by our next meeting, we'll be able to meet in person. We'll keep our fingers crossed with all the vaccinations that are going on, because I just got an email that all Metro employees are going to be able to get vaccinated starting this Saturday. So we're definitely moving in the right direction. Once we compile this list of community groups, we could have a big get together once a year and go over the actual annual reports, the one for Metro Parks and Belmont, and the one with MNPS and Belmont, and give an actual presentation, not just post it on the website, but show it to the people that want to see it. So, I mean, that could be something very productive and also help to build those or break down those bridges that are going on between right now. With that, that's the end of that chart. I'm going back to my agenda right quick. Assignments for quarterly meetings per the chart. Like I said, that's a work in process. We'll continue to work on that. Berkeley, do you have any update on document maintenance and storage?
Yes, there is a website where I'm getting documents put up. I'm still working on figuring out who gets access to it, but ultimately the goal is to make it a public document that everyone can see. But I'll work with Pearl to get all the appropriate documents on there. So far, it's just got the legislation and the lease agreements on there, but the process is starting.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Update on facility schedule being more accessible. I already talked about that. Miscellaneous discussions. I've already talked about the concession stand. One thing that was in the minutes from last time, I believe it was, that Joyce, you and Pearl were going to speak about potential concerns. Is there anything you all want to share at this point that you all would have discussed as far as breaking down perceptions?
Pearl and I have not met, and that's my fault. You guys,
It's a meeting now.
Walter he was bedridden, and so all the care fell on me morning and night.
Is he doing okay?
Full-time work. Yeah, he is now out, and he has one more procedure on Friday. He would be mad if I was telling you all this. And
we all are hoping
get back to work soon, but it has been interesting.
Well, that's okay. Then some point in the future we'll have that. At this point, I'll ask: is there any new business? Let's see. Berkeley, I don't see anything. Mr. Barlow, anything from you?
No, I'll say my comments for the next meeting. I think some of the things we're talking about need to be developed by the staff. They need to sort of do something like a program evaluation, look at who the stakeholders are, the activity, the outputs, and then look at the outcomes. And that needs to be developed by the staff.
Yeah.
So I'll say my comments for the next time.
Okay. And well, if you have any comments, excuse me, that you would want to put down in writing and send, if we're talking staff, I assume that would be at the center. I will share those with Steve and with Ashford at MMPS. I mean, we can start to look at that ahead of time, or you can simply wait until the next meeting. I'm fine either way.
I can email you a general outline that we probably do not a full program evaluation, but need to have an idea of who your stakeholders are. Because if you don't know who your stakeholders are, you're not going to know how to design your activities. Then you're not going to know how your outcome will look. We call it output, and then the output look at your outcomes, and then we look at what we call impact. So what was changed. And so that's something that the staff needs to do because they're the ones needed the activity. And so as advisory, we need to say, hey, you need to come up with a list of who your stakeholders are and then develop those activities for those stakeholders. Now, you can go back and do what's called a questionnaire. What questions are you going to deal with the activity, do what's called implementation, how you going to implement the activities. Then look at we call it output, how often that's going to take place. So you only have so much time in a day, and so you have to say how many times you're going to have yoga, how many times you're going to have yoga per week, what time it's going to be. So those type of things we call output. So we need to go back to the staff and have them to come up with something like this. So then we can make recommendations. So they're the one that actually, if not, we will be micromanaging people.
That sounds good. I'd love to see that. And if you don't mind summarizing that and sending that, I'd like to see how we can implement that. That's excellent. Ashford.
Yeah, I just want a quick point of clarity to ask Brother Barlow, if that's okay, if I may.
Okay.
So are you saying that as a committee, we should make recommendations to the staff about things like stakeholders, but not like telling staff, right? Like I'm not sure if we have the authority to tell the staff, do we? I think we're an advisory committee. We can bring recommendations to the staff.
Yeah, and that's what I'm talking about. The staff need to develop some type of program tool for us to look at, and then we can do an evaluation of that. But if we start telling the staff what to do, then we're going beyond our mandate, as I see it, and then we're also micromanaging the staff. I see some concerns, but in a city as large as Nashville, you're going to have competing groups within the same neighborhood. And so we don't want to get them becoming referees. And I hear some of that overtone because there's too many separate neighborhood groups already in South Nashville. And so that's why the staff need to identify stakeholders, and if a particular group see themselves as being a stakeholder, then they need to go to that center manager, whoever the manager of that center, and say, this is what we like to see. Because I live on further north and south now. Well, it's further south. I live close to Sevier Park. Well, I live really up the street from Zanges. But I use Sevier Park, and I know Sevier Park has a calendar of all activities. We just can't go in there because there's too many groups, neighborhood groups, even this area I'm in. So it's left up to whoever the park is placed in that to manage that facility to know their stakeholders, so they can come up with what we call activities. From your activities, you're gonna look at what we call output, and if my output will be what we call outcome, and then we're gonna measure the impact. Now, for this, you may not need to measure the impact. You probably need the outcome, which would be the results. But then the way you would do it, go back and start developing questions from your activities, so we can look at measure what we call implementation, how it's been implemented. And but that is something, you know, I'm just trying to get away from us being micromanagers, and that's what I'm hearing sometimes, being referees, because you can always have and I'm a pastor of a church, we always have competing ideas. So you have to have a way of dealing with competing ideas. And that's what I hear. And the only way I know how to do that is use some type of program evaluation system.
Okay, very good. Ashford, did you have anything else?
I do not. My hand isn't up, is it?
What's that?
My hand isn't up, is it? I don't think my hand is up.
No.
Okay.
I'm just going down because next time at the beginning of the meeting, I'm going to try and figure out how to do the hand, because I've done it sometimes, but today I haven't been able to figure out how to put the hands up either. So I probably, if Dontre is helping us next meeting or whoever is, I'll have him do some instruction on the front end on how we can do that, because I think that helps a lot and keeps it more orderly if we're able to do that. So I'm just going down real quick to make sure that everyone was able to give input. Calvin, did you have any additional input?
No, I don't have anything.
Okay. I see a Cynthia Matthews, which I assume is just a spectator. Or who is Cynthia Matthews?
Cynthia is a neighborhood advocate.
Okay, cool. And then Ms. Moore, do you have anything you want to add?
I have one question. We can roll it over to next meeting. I noted that Sarah Hoover had a question regarding the concession stands, and I'm interested in what her concern is.
We're actually meeting Thursday out there. She has a group that is potentially interested in operating the concession stand. So we're meeting on Thursday to go to look at the concession stand.
Thank you.
So that I will give a report at the next meeting on where that developed to.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Joyce, anything? I don't see you and I can't hear you, so you could still be having trouble with your mouse. And then Steve, anything?
No, sir, I have nothing.
Okay. Steve, do you have anything you want to add before we end?
Oh, no, I don't have anything.
Well, then in that case, I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn and thank all of you for coming.
Mr. Chair, I move adjournment.
Joyce with the motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second by, is that Calvin or?
It's Calvin Barlow.
Calvin Barlow with the second. Thank you all. The meeting is now officially adjourned. Have a good evening and be safe.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information about this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.